The More Show is in partnership with Ozark Mountain Publishing, taking readers beyond the unexplained.
If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on The More Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly television and radio shows.
The More Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms.
Welcome back. Mystic Pete's mystical initiation began in the 1970s, and since then he has worked diligently to define and codify the mystical experience. With that background, he now teaches others how to enter the transcendental on their own, with a comprehensive system of mystical training. Good evening, Mystic Pete.
Hello, Kevin Moore.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Calling from Santa Monica, California.
Oh, do you know what? I do love America. Do you know, I've been there many, many times. And, California was a place that I did spend quite a bit of time. It's I love it. It's great. So what's the weather like there? Is it nice today?
Well, it was pretty tough on us. It was like a cold 80 degrees, and that's Fahrenheit, and we like it when it's 82.
Yes.
Celsius is I can't do the transcription, but I'm making a joke. It's beautiful and sunny here.
Well, that sounds fantastic. So, how did you get the name Mystic Pete?
I was performing a lot. My thing is spirituality through the arts, and I kind of needed a stage name, and it stuck. And I play cello, I play at raves, and I conduct kind of events that involve dancing, and Mystic Pete.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about yourself then. I mean, have you always been spiritual? I mean, how did that start off for you?
When I was a teenager, I had some kind of crazy experiences coming to me from out of nowhere. They just slammed into my life. There was no context for them. I didn't know what to make of them. I remember one night I was working in a restaurant. It was a crepe place. I'm sorry, it was a vegan place in Venice, California. And all this energy started to pour through my body, and I thought I was going crazy. It was like flying off of me, and glasses just sitting on the shelves, like wine glasses, started shattering, one after the other. And it was actually very destabilizing. On that night, I just had to put this voltage someplace. So I walked over to the hunched, surly dishwasher, whose name was Luis, and I said, "Feel this." And I put my hands a few inches from his head, and I just projected in all this force that was streaming through me. And he stood bolt upright, said, "Dios mío," and gave me a big bear hug. He felt something, and he just brightened up immediately, and I was so happy to see that he was able to find a better job after that. But this force that's just been blasting through my life, and there hasn't been many places to go to find out about it. There isn't much teaching for mystical experience, so I've really had to dig deep inside of myself to try to figure out what this means. And I've spent years and decades really pulling it apart and finding a grounded way to hold it, and finally to teach others what I've learned, so everyone can enjoy some kind of connection to the transcendental worlds.
Okay. Now, transcendental, just explain that a bit for us, please.
Well, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that there's of course this world, physical world, we can see it, touch it. It's where human experience happens. Well, let's just say that there is another dimension that is non-physical. It has no space, has no time. It's eternal. And it permeates everything. And let's just say that the entire material universe, all 14 billion miles across, is just a tiny speck within this eternal spiritual canopy. So a mystic is someone who can make a journey to this mysterious, unseen world, which is actually very close. It's just hard to find.
Yeah.
So a mystic can kind of travel there, look around, understand what's happening, come back and talk about what they've seen, hopefully teach about it. Some come back and start yelling at telephone poles, and others form selfish cults, anointing themselves as a messiah, and go in a very dangerous path. But contact with the transcendental, I think, is a very powerful experience. And while some people may think, oh, that's just something you're believing in to help you make sense of the world, to help give context to all the confusion that everyone's feeling. You know, that's a simplistic explanation. Once you have an experience of these other worlds, it may even be through just having a strong intuition. You just have unordinary knowledge, or you see an aura, you see an angel or a ghost, or you travel out of your body. Once one of these things happen to you, there's really no mistaking the veracity of it. It's a compelling experience, and it's way beyond belief or something we're using it just as a way to comfort ourselves.
Yeah,
how do you feel about this whole other dimensional stuff?
Yeah, I think you've got to have an open heart, and you've got to have gone through something, because some sort of life experience for you to be pushed in that direction. Like you say, the near-death experiences, or something else that sort of triggered you looking at life with different eyes, and looking for answers that just weren't there before, or the system that you were plugged into is just not working for you.
Well, I guess all the guests on your show, a lot of them are really sympathetic to this orientation, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, could you swap the word transcendental for heaven or home?
I like it. I think there's a lot of words we give to it. The sacred, other dimensions, heaven. Part of the problem is we don't really have a great vocabulary in English to describe mystical experience.
That's right. Now, okay, so you say that you've journeyed to this place a number of times, and there's a constant connection I'm taking that you have with this with what you would call. Well, let's just use the word home just for now, okay?
Home.
Or the transcendental. It's the same thing. We just.
I like the word home.
Okay.
I love that.
Okay.
In other words, the place we come from,
and the place we go back to.
Oh, I love that.
That's right.
It's a different way of thinking about it for me, but I appreciate that.
That's no problem. Well, that's what the show's here for. It's it's to be able to share these views that wouldn't normally be shared or be allowed to be shared. But what have you brought with you? What's some of the key knowledge that you think you've had on your through your meditations and as such?
Well, I would say that this experience of both worlds is a regular experience I have. I would say a big part of me is there all the time, and a big part of me is here all the time, and I'm aware of both pieces. And I think psychics and mystics and healers will know exactly what I'm talking about. And I think the real challenge is to integrate the two, because it's such a monumental experience behind the veil that it's destabilizing. There's no wise man in robes who comes to us and says, "Come with me, my child, let's go to the temple and we will learn the ways of the mystical worlds." There's nothing like that. All the books I've read, it's just kind of kindergarten spirituality, a lot of them. Not really advanced spiritual information. And I'm understanding that one of the reasons I'm here is to create a teaching system. Because I think we're entering an age where it's no longer about bowing down to other people, blind belief, sitting at the footstool of gurus. It's a time of individual empowerment. And it's a time where everybody has to find it on their own.
Yeah, but I mean, that scares some people, doesn't it? The idea that to take self-responsibility, most people don't want to know.
You make a really good point. because if you are going to face the ultimate blazing light of reality, well, it can be a lonely journey, and it can be a difficult journey, and it's one that you have to do alone. Really, ultimately, there's no intermediary between you and this force if you want contact with it. You can't go to a minister or a priest or a wise man and have them translate for you. You have to see the light. You have to hear that voice. And I think you're right. It can be kind of frightening. But I think it's an exciting journey.
Yeah.
And I think people are craving intensity and creating creativity and interesting experience. And I'll tell you, the journey to the inner parts of self, I find to be much more intense than any physical activity. You could be parachuting and playing a video game in one eye and watching a movie on the other. It's still not as intense as leaving your body and exploring some of these other places.
Now,
and I think that therein is the excitement. It's a blast.
Absolutely, and that can just I mean, you know, this travel to this transcendental place. I mean, can it?
We're calling it home now.
Well, let's call it home then. Okay, then I'm cool with that. No, I like the word home. To home. You know, is that just through meditation then? Can it just be as simple as just a bit of quiet meditation? And do you have to have an acceptance that, you know, of what's going to come, or do you just accept whatever comes to you, or do you basically create the reality that you want to see when you go into meditation?
It's actually a big question. I have a big long answer. I'll try not to say the whole thing, but I would say this age is calling us to all step up. And we're moving actually from a period of being human animals to being something else, some kind of human angelic being. And this isn't something we really even have a choice about. It's like we're either going to make this evolutionary shift, or, just to be blunt, we're all going to perish. We have to figure out how to put our angel wings on and fly, or we're just going to smash into a wall like bugs hitting the windshield of a car driving fast, because the world is so overextended in so many directions right now. There's really a lot of peril on Earth, whether it's war, terrorism, genetic engineering, climate change. I mean, so many economic perils, so many things are destabilized. And the only way we can pull all this back together is by digging deep inside and finding our spiritual power. So in the broadest mystical arc, there's a reason why we're facing all these calamities right now and all this destabilization. And that is to motivate us to go inside and find our truth. And as I say, learn how to put on our angel wings so we can evolve into this new being. So that's half the answer, but I'll stop there.
No, that's a really good answer, and you know, because you do talk in your work about the dangers or the dangerous times that we're entering or are currently in. You know, if, like you say, we don't change, and I've heard other you know, authors that have said the same thing as well. That there, you know, there has been people sent here to help the change take place, but it's got to come from within, from us, to, you know, to help the earth.
Yeah, and your other guests, do you find that they are reporting the same thing, that we are at some kind of crossroads and that there is danger?
Well, if I generalize it, then yes. If I generalize what they're saying, then yes. You know, that there is a, you know, that there's two paths that we can take, and you know, it's up to us to want to be awake and to see that we're all connected, and that you know, what we do to others, we do to ourselves in a sense as well.
You're a pretty spiritual guy, Kevin.
Yeah, more so nowadays. I suppose that's why I'm doing the show as well, as my own sort of spiritual journey as well. But then again, you've got your own radio show, do you not?
Yeah, I have a couple of shows here. They're more music shows, but I like to talk, so I try to talk as much as I can. But actually, one of my shows it features the underground DJ scene. It's dubstep and house and trance and drum and bass and all this ravey kind of music.
It's very big over here.
And it's actually the only show in LA that has this kind of music. I don't know why the music capital of the world would be so kind of behind the times, but and I'm a little bit too old to be doing a music show that features EDM. But you're middle aged. What do? You shave your head, put on cool glasses, and they let you pass. So.
No, I know the music you're talking about, and it's quite big in London, but it is slowly seeping out into other cities, definitely.
It's on the radio in London. Here, it's like not on the radio.
So you're not going to use your show to as such to get your messages across, but then again, there is a lot of power in music, isn't there?
Well, I'll tell you the big secret behind and a motivation for writing this book is I would like to get a national talk show that features sex and mysticism. So that is on my radar, and I hope it'll come sooner rather than later. But meanwhile, whether I'm producing videos or music or doing radio, I just have a lot coming out of me.
Okay, and with your music, I mean, where that influence is sort of from your the spiritual elements of your work that are mixed in there as well.
It's a very good question. So I said at the beginning that the way I would describe myself is someone who does spirituality through the arts, and consistent with this age, as I say, of self-empowerment and eliminating the intermediary between the individual and home, as we're calling it, or transcendental. What brings us there? What brings us there easily and quickly? Okay, yes, meditation. Yoga is certainly on the front line of this evolution, that people find this kind of inner peace when they're at yoga classes. But what else? Dance, music. I think anybody who's watched movies knows that experience of being carried away for a moment, where time stops. Suddenly 2 hours feels like a couple of minutes. Now, people may not identify this as a spiritual experience, but I think we could start to. And people who dance a lot, that experience of ecstasy and bliss and feeling powerful and beautiful. Well, these are the adjectives we use to describe the sacred. So whether it's going to an art museum and being transported, going to an opera, perhaps even going to a puppet show, time can kind of stop for a minute, and a little door can open to a more gracious world. So I would say the arts are a really good way for us to touch this other dimension, either just incidentally or very deliberately, using arts in a very conscious way to get us off.
Okay, excellent. Well, stay tuned, Mystic Pete, and we're just going to take a short break.
The More Show is in partnership with Ozark Mountain Publishing, taking readers beyond the unexplained.
Visit themoreshow.co.uk/shop to purchase products and services from your favourite past guests. If you're new to this site, you can also catch up on the previous television and radio shows through YouTube and the More Show website.
The More Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms.
Welcome back. I'm joined by radio host, author, cellist and humorist Mystic Pete. Now, we're alive and the lines are open for you to call and speak to our guest or share your opinion. You can call us again on 0292 000 3666 or text your comments and questions to 07728 758 759. International listeners outside the UK may Skype the show by adding The More Show Live. And don't forget, you can interact with us on Facebook and Twitter. So, Mystic Pete, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Kevin. Hey, thank you so much for playing some of my music.
No, it's our pleasure. We've got more to play after the next ad break as well. But just tell us about those tracks as well.
Well, the first one was called The One. And I just put up a YouTube video. It's doing very well. I produce a kind of music I call bass pop. It's pop music with EDM and bass tracks and kind of the stuff the DJs play. And the second track is called You're Mine. I'm playing cello and doing the male vocals on both of them. I love creating and making music, and I've really found that just any way to be creative is a way to find the sacred in my life. But even though I don't make a lot of my creations obviously spiritual, but there's a kind of a spiritual undertone. I think people are maybe getting a little tired of some new age music. It's just sometimes it just lacks some oomph, and I just try to make my music and videos so they'll be appealing to anyone.
Well, it's the first time I've heard him, and congratulations. That's all I'm going to say. Well done.
Thanks, Kevin. Wow, yeah. I'm being played in the UK.
Hey,
yay!
Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, I think you go to show that if you want to manifest something, you can do. If it's coming from the right source, the right place, and it's going to benefit others, I think that's an important part as well. I think you can achieve anything.
Sounds like this has been breathing through your life for quite some time.
Well, it has. I mean, to get this show up and running, it was really a case of being in tune with this is what you really want to do, and one part I didn't see of the process of what a benefit it was to others, and I now see that if that's there, it may not always be obvious, but if it's there, it will happen.
Well, it sounds like you really had to dig deep and follow your intuition and your spiritual guidance, because there's all these hurdles you have to get through in the arts, and you did it. You pulled it out of thin air.
Well, from an idea to being a reality, but anyone can do this. Anyone can do what they truly desire. It's just a case of, is it really what you want to do? And is it something that you love as well? And most people live in fear. I think that's it's from the again or some of the authors that have come in here. Do you find that as well? Is that fear of things that's something that really restricts people?
I think fear is a big part of life, and frankly, I'm scared a lot myself. In my later books, I have one that's called Raw Power. So how do we find raw power? And part of that is facing down the emotions. I think there's some religions, some practices teach avoiding fear, like pretending it's not there. And then there becomes this kind of big boogeyman in the closet that's there, but you're pretending it's not there. My practice is much more about really being honest about our fears and acknowledging them and facing them and saying, yes, we're human. Fear is there for a reason. If we weren't scared of lions, they would attack us and eat us. So we have to be scared of walking across the traffic. Fear is a very useful emotion, but when it disables us, it's a problem. When it immobilizes us, then that's obviously not good. But I think by facing it down, feeling it, and letting it move through, it disappears. So it can be an ally. That's the way I use it in my system. And I would say this system really derives more from the arts, from even theater. I think, just to take this a little further,
yeah.
If you're an actor on stage and you're playing a character that's very scared, you don't become scared just by pretending it or playing it. It doesn't infect you. So we can feel these emotions, we can let them pass through us, and then they have no power. In fact, they become power we can utilize for other things. So, actually, to answer the question, I would say that I think fear is a problem when it's denied, and that is when it really binds us. It's just sitting there and coloring our whole life, and it turns into worry, these repetitive thought processes that go over and over we can't get rid of. Well, that's fear. What about just like saying to yourself, well, what am I scared about? What is down there? What is this monster at the bottom of my being? And looking at it, writing about it, singing a song about it, screaming it out. Then its power is gone. It's liberated, and then it's free energy. Anyway, we skipped ahead to the
No,
third
no,
book,
it's fine.
but-
And also talking about it as well, all what you described there is part of its transformation. But it's like you say, it's at least acknowledging it sometimes when it becomes that repeated pattern of it's always on your mind, it's always niggling at you, and whenever you're not in the moment, it's there. So, but you mentioned your books as well. I mean, you've done all these books. And now, am I right to say that your latest book is the Sex and Mysticism?
So the first book, the book I just released, is the first of a series of
First of the series.
10.
Right. Yeah.
And this is called Sex and Mysticism. And it's basically a long introduction to the mystical road. And I really felt like I had to give some context and explanation and kind of describe basic principles of home, of the transcendental, what this all means and where we're going to put it all in place. And in the next book, I really get into the specifics of how, well, I call them the 5 powers. The first one is how to protect yourself. Second one is healing. Third one is raw power. Fourth, manifestation. And fifth, guidance. So if you can master those 5 powers, you will be able to call yourself a mystic and be able to manifest things in the world pretty well, and also have a good familiarity with all these other worlds.
Okay, so was this information channeled, would you say?
I actually studied channeling for a while, and I got into transmediumship, and this was in the 70s, before it was popular. Come on. Yeah, I did it for a while, and let's talk about channeling for a second. It's a very interesting mystical thing happening. So we're letting spiritual entities into our consciousness and our mind and kind of play around inside of us. And then some people let them speak through them. But I think there's 2 ways to channel. One is you kind of leave your body. We call it trans channeling. And this other entity takes over, and you become some being from the 3rd planet of Zorkon. And I actually think this is not really a good idea, although I can do it and I was trained in it. Because one, you don't really know the quality of information coming through. And from being at hundreds of channeling sessions like that, I can tell you that it actually is very general in nature. It may sound very compelling, but if you really listen to what's being said, it's not really potent information that really teaches you anything. It's impressive, and people get hooked into it. But I would say there's really not that much to trance channeling. And as I say, there's elements of danger. And then, like, you're, in a sense, being possessed. There's another type of channeling that I think is very useful, and that's more of a co-creation between the individual and the spiritual dimensions and the spiritual beings out there, angelic and so forth. But you stay in the driver's seat. You're the captain of the ship. You control everything, but as I say, it's a co-creation. You let these other forces in and let them inspire you and guide you, but you're the creator. So that's the kind of channeling I do, and I would say yes, this book is entirely channeled, as is all my music and videos. They're all channeled, but from a place of me being the captain of the ship. Long answer, but I wanted to explain that.
No, that's an interesting answer. But why the sex in there? I mean, is that fundamental to a healthy spiritual relationship? And can sex and love be one or the other? I mean, can they be apart?
Well, let me just ask you a question before I answer that, because here in the United States, there's this polarity. On the one hand, there's this terrible reactiveness and really reactionary quality where, in a sense, sex is hated and shunned, and open sexuality is just condemned by a segment of the population, a very vocal segment that is rather in control of things. And then there's another segment of the population that's, I would say, more open to sexuality, eroticism. And then I would say that's the middle road. And then we have a third one that's just way off into promiscuity and sexual excess and pornography. I just don't know. I haven't traveled that much, at least physically. I don't know how it is in the UK in terms of openness about talking about sexuality. And I just wanted to check in with you first.
Oh, no. I mean,
how do people approach this?
No. It's, we have gay rights in this country. We have, I've been based in Cardiff, where the show's taped from. It's a very open city, I'd like to think, and we're past the watershed, so anything goes right now, basically. But no, I wouldn't say it's taboo or anything like that to discuss it on air. I'd like to think that I live in a country that's quite open and has an open media, but others would disagree.
All right, fair enough. So there's still a polarity there, but it doesn't sound as if it's as hard edged.
I'm guessing America has a much bigger Christian input into some things compared to this country, where I don't think it's quite the same.
Well, yes, we have a very anti-sexual element here, and just to spin off a little in that direction, I would actually call them sexual fetishists. I mean, they claim like they're all for these righteous principles, but if you look at their religion, everything has to do about sex or restraining us from sex. So it's almost a religion about sexuality, sexual fetishism in a very negative way. Mm. Although they don't think of themselves as a sexual fetish, but that's the way I see it, because I think sexuality is part of the forces animating the material universe. It's right up there with gravity and light and magnetism. The erotic, I think, is something flowing in from the heavenly worlds. I mean, the question is life on Earth an aberration? Is this a fluke here, or because of the sexual erotic nature of the forces pulsing throughout the universe? Is life bursting on any and every planet it can gain a toehold? So I would of course argue for the latter, that we're bursting with erotic. The nature of reality is erotic, and that gives rise to life. So on one level, this is just the way the universe is built. Sex is a big part of it.
Yeah.
If you deny it, you're denying reality.
That's what I wanted to get into, Pete. I mean, what about those who deny? What about? It's not wrong to have to. I mean, some people in this country, they wait till they meet the right person, and then only when they're married will they have a sexual relationship. I'm speaking for probably just experience as well. And is that right to withhold yourself from sex? Is that, or should you wait till you find, in your opinion, the one that you love? This is what I was trying to get to before, because I've read snippets of your book where you say that love and sex go hand in hand, not the other way.
Very interesting topic of discussion. So let me refer to the third book that's coming out, called Raw Power. And one of the places we find raw power inside of ourselves is in our emotions, as I've said. Another place we find raw power, not in our thoughts, by the way. Thoughts are like, to me, afterthoughts. Emotions carry raw power. And one of the other places is our sexuality. This is like a big battery. It's explosive. It's volcanic. And the way we can use this power is by harnessing it. So there's two parts. On the one hand, it has to be freed. Sexuality has to be dynamic and alive, and there has to be passion. But if there's too much passion, if sexuality is just flying all over the place, then there's promiscuity and there's poor choices, and we find ourselves entangled in just sexual messes and grief and even a lot of illegality. So the other part of sexuality is discipline. Discipline on the one hand, passion on the other. And we have to be disciplined. We have to make good choices about this very, very powerful force. But there again, go too much out in that direction, too much discipline, and your life force contracts. You become bitter and stale and violent, and your life becomes devoid of art and pleasure and beauty. So you don't want too much discipline. And I think you're talking about the ascetic tradition, which kind of advocates brahmacharya or celibacy. I think this is actually a very advanced mystical practice that people shouldn't do unless they really know about themselves and themselves as individuals, because I think it does more harm than good. I think people just get very frustrated and end up getting into compulsive masturbation, and here they're preaching celibacy and they're having sex, out on with a hooker or something. I mean, it creates an internal division that's really not good. So good, chosen, healthy eroticism, I think, is the way to go. And I think people should play also with periods of abstinence. I mean, like a week, just for a week. If you want to see what that feels like, for a week, have no sex. Don't masturbate. Even try not to fantasize. Just let your sexual body relax. But no more than that. See what happens after a week. You'll probably be exploding.
Okay, well, stay tuned, Mystic Pete, and we're just going to take a short break.
The More Show is in partnership with Ozark Mountain Publishing, taking readers beyond the unexplained.
If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on The More Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly television and radio shows.
The More Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms.
Welcome back. I'm still joined by radio host, author, cellist and humorist Mystic Pete. We are live and the lines are now open for you to call and speak to the guest and share your opinion. Remember, the lines are 0292 000 3666 or text your comments and questions to 07728 758 759, and international listeners outside the UK may Skype the show by adding The More Show Live. Pete, welcome back to the show.
Hi, it's so nice to talk to someone who's sympathetic to all this stuff.
Well, we'd like to, have an unbiased opinion, if we can do, on subjects like this, when it comes to, if you want to term it out-the-box subjects, but I'd like to term them as something a bit more normal than that. So, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, and it's always nice when you get the guest on like yourself. That's, a good speaker as well. So I really appreciate you being able to communicate your message.
You're doing just what I want to be doing.
Well,
my idol. Stay idle.
Well, remember, you have the power of manifestation as well. So just keep at it and make sure it's in your heart to want to do.
Thank you, Kevin. I love that.
So, just before we get off the whole issue of your work into love and sex and everything that's sort of mystical around that, there was a question just before the end of the ad break that I really wanted to ask you to say, look, if someone's not had a sexual relationship for a long time, do you think that can be, quite harming to them in a sense spiritually as well, or do you think there's, that's fine to wait, when you find the right person that'll be it, or is there more to it?
Well, there's three things we need in relationships. One is companionship, just someone to hang out and talk to, and that kind of intimacy of mind. Number two is touching. Someone to cuddle with, just someone to physically be with, which is different than the third one, which is sexual touching. We need all three of these things. we need to make love once in a while. It's just a biological urge, and it's healthy. And we need all three of these things. The world is suffering from isolation. So many people feel lonely and don't have one or two or any of those three. There's so many lonely people, and we're not built this way. We evolved in little tribes where you were constantly being touched and talked to, and you had plenty of sexual partners. Like we evolved for tens of thousands of years in a tribal world where anytime you wanted to have sex, there was probably someone around who would have sex with you. This is what our bodies want and need, and we don't have it now. And because it's so frustrated, we get into all these obsessive and compulsive behaviors, and we think it's a problem with us. Well, so the first thing is to know it's not you, it's not us, it's the system is set up in a very unnatural way. And then on top of that, there's all these religious strictures, and we're kind of in a messy situation now. It's unnatural, and we're all feeling it. We're all lonely. I think what we have to do to get through this period, and I think it will end soon and open up into a period of that's just much more humane and friendly and feeling. And I'm not just talking about orgiastic piles that are irresponsible. I'm talking about chosen eroticism and touching and communication, deep, heartfelt communication. But until that kind of bursts through on a societal level, as scary as that is, I think we have to do some inner journeying. And the loneliness we feel, I think we have to use that to drive us to find our inner power. How does one deal with isolation and loneliness and not being touched and not having sex? It's hard, and it can, but just like with any difficulty, it can drive you to find inner powers and even inner erotic powers. And my books are a lot about finding your inner erotic force. And the inner erotic force is key to all kinds of mystical manifestation and making money. And it lubricates, I put it this way, it lubricates the money wheels. When you find how to use your sexual force. Let me explain that for a second.
Yeah.
I think people are familiar with the idea of qi, or even like healing force, Reiki, Qigong. Well, your erotic force is kind of like that. It's just maybe a little different flavor. It's the sexual flavor of it. It's sexual qi. It's the part of spirit that is erotic. And the Greeks knew about this eros, the god Pan. All these ancient civilizations knew about this nature force, and we've somehow divorced it from spirituality. But I think we can reclaim it and harness it. And going back to what I said, that comes from passion and discipline. Then we can inject it into the business strata and the money strata of consciousness. And suddenly opportunities can come to you. You still have to do things in the world. I mean, maybe a sack of money will fall on your front porch, but there is generally action that has to take place in the material world. Yeah. And sometimes it's real hard work. But using your inner force makes it easier. It's the force of Venus and Aphrodite. Instead of the force of Mars, the military force, which is the usual way we think about getting money. Now, wait, I was that was a detour. So I think we need to let our loneliness and all of this pain we feel as an opportunity to find our inner power, and that has to be located all alone. Is masturbation a part of it? Of course, but even more than that, it's finding and lighting up your inner energetic system, which is of a sexual nature. And this is a very mystical thing, and it's very exciting. And I won't say let let me put it this way. The more you find it, the less I think that loneliness will be an issue.
Okay.
Okay.
No, well, I was just going to say, but yeah, the whole thing of sex and power, are they connected then as well?
Yes. So the three sources of power: emotions, sexual force, or I call it sexual chi. And then the third one is what I would call primary chi. It's the chi that Tai Chi masters use. It's more of an elemental nature. It's without the sexual component. So there's these three batteries, and all three of them have to be opened up and charged up for you to be fully empowered mystically. But I think the sexual one is sometimes the one that's the most available to people, or at least the most frustrated. And when it's all bottled up and twisted up, it just leads us into a lot of sexual grief and compulsive pornography watching and all kinds of other stuff. But this is really on a spiritual level, a twisting of the erotic inner channels.
Okay, but and also you mentioned there previously as well about being alone. But would you say though that when you have that sort of spiritual awakening, that there is, that there is a place, there is a connection with something that's greater and part of you as well at the same time, that you never are alone, that that your loved ones are around you if you want them to be, that there's a world of spirit there as well that never leaves you. So this whole idea of being alone really is transformed.
I love what you just said. That's beautiful.
So it's a yes.
Certainly all these spiritual practices can lead you to a inner companionship and finding playmates on other dimensions and a lot of inner light. And at the same time, well, all I know is I crave companionship, and as much as I love my solitude and doing my inner journeying, I want to be with people and socialize and connect and touch and be touched.
I mean, how are people sort of supposed to make sense of your writings about mystical states if they've never experienced anything like that, though? I mean, is that a state that they've got to find themselves, or can you help them through meditation perhaps to reach that point?
I appreciate the question. How do you, if this all sounds like science fiction, or maybe you don't even believe in any of it, then what do we do with all this stuff? Is this all fiction? I would suggest that if people want to open their mind to all this, they really have had no experience. The first thing to do is open to the possibility that you've actually had spiritual experience, and a lot of it in your life, but you haven't identified it as such. That the spiritual experience that you've been taught is valid is stuff you see in movies where there's shooting lights and big angels and or things you read in the religious books where there were trumpets and big and flashy Hollywood blockbuster stuff. So that's what we think of as spiritual experience. But I would say that the most ordinary and common and everyday one is very quiet. And it's a whisper, it's an intuition, it's a feeling. And I think, I think, Kevin, just as you had a feeling for this show and something was kind of whispering in your ear and guiding you, and I think real estate people have it, and stockbrokers. I mean, they know how to rely on their hunches and that kind of inner knowing. I think some of the most spiritual people unwittingly are people who are successful at times because they've had to rely on that inner knowing, but they've never named it as such. So the first thing is to validate that is possible and that might be with you. And maybe your thing isn't business. Maybe you're a great computer game player. Maybe you're a gamer and you just get it. Well, why not? So maybe you're getting a little spiritual guidance there. World of Warcraft deity.
Well,
so
that's
the first
so
step,
true.
I think.
Yeah, that's so true as well. I mean, you know, we use this word spiritual in a context that you have to be sat there meditating, you know, for days on end, or, you know, it really is, you know, everyone, like you say, that has that connection with that inner guidance, they're tuned in. You just don't know it. I mean, and also, you know, any jobs are spiritual, aren't they? In the sense, you know, being a mother, being a father, you know, the most unworthy jobs that some people think, you know, they are probably, you know, some of the most spiritual ones in a sense.
Instinct and intuition.
Yes.
This is where our first contact with home. But I think there is a place for the more wild spiritual experience. And curiously, the thing that most likely will bring it on, and tragically, is trauma. Actually, people, you know, if you have a car crash, you're going through a divorce, you have a terminal illness. I mean, it's often reported that this breaks down ordinary reality so completely that suddenly you're open. You're like a baby. You're open to a different truth. And I mean, we've all heard people say, yeah, that illness was a gift to me. The divorce was a gift. I mean, like, it doesn't even make sense. But somehow it stopped time. It stopped the progress of our mind and allowed us to see a different dimension. So trauma can bring it on, although I don't recommend you sticking a sharp screwdriver through your ear to feel that. I think we can approach it, as I said, through the arts. I think everyone should be involved in the arts. Have it in some place in your life, and take it out of this place where it's just for those special people, the celebrity obsession that we've developed. Arts is really a good, healthy thing that the spiritual world can connect us with us through. And then, you know, I have my books, which really takes people through all the bits and pieces of this training. But I'm not trying to limit it to what I wrote. I think what I have is very powerful and effective and can work for anybody. But there's all kinds of ways to find these other dimensions. I think actually about 7 billion of them.
No, I love the way that you come across, and you know, it's you make it easy, and that's and accessible, and that's the and grounded as well. That's the important part. But you know, what's I mean, we've covered a fair bit here, but there's some bits and pieces we still have not got a chance to cover.
Please.
But very quickly, I mean, what's some of the spiritual laws as well?
Well, I go into that in this first book a little bit. The big one, the big primary law, is about free will. I see the human experience on Earth as a free will experiment. It's only by free will that we can develop moral discernment. A lot of religions just teach, obey. Do what you're told. Don't question. Just believe. Well, you know, that's fine, and that might be great if you're trying to train a dog. Just obey. That's good for a dog, you know. But to really evolve, to be able to find and follow your inner guidance, you have to have free will and choose. You have to choose to do right or do wrong. And we each have that choice every day in matters big and small. So whatever, well, here's the law. I don't know if I'm explaining it very concisely, but whatever empowers free will bring you closer to the fundamental law of this reality. So whether it's in you, getting yourself out of enslaving situations, stop enslaving other people, whether it's financially or physically, you know, in relationships and in work, you have to give other people choices, and you make good choices for yourself. Exercise your free will and get out of situations that bind you.
Well, thank you so much, Pete, for joining us tonight. And just very quickly as well, because we're running out of time.
Yes,
here, what's your web address, please?
MysticPete.com. I'm also on Twitter and Facebook. Mystic Pete and YouTube, The Mystic Pete. I've got all kinds of great videos, iTunes. I'm all over the place, but I wish you'd connect with me and take a look at my interesting little illustrated aphorisms I just put up. You can see those on mysticpete.com.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to link your website to ours. And Mystic Pete, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Kevin Murray, you're an awesome interviewer. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Take care.
Okay, well, we've come to the end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So until next time, be safe.
Visit themoreshow.co.uk/shop to purchase products and services from your favourite past guests. If you're new to this site, you can also catch up on the previous television and radio shows through YouTube and the More Show website.